Where I see companies fail are those companies that don't line item a budget around changing this landscape. They've spent all their money to get the data, but they haven't allocated money for change.
Hey, it's E.B. Moss, and this is episode 12 of the Advancing Diversity podcast. It's already March, and that means that it's Women's History Month, and that follows on the heels of February's Black History Month. That all kind of makes me a little bit sad that we still need months dedicated to women's history or Black history instead of it just organically being folded into the lessons of all our history books. But today I'm going to talk with someone who's helping make some of those organic changes, at least in the business books. I'm here today with Lauren Wesley Wilson. She's the founder and CEO of ColorComm. And I'd be surprised if you haven't heard of her a little bit. She's been written up in the Washington Post, Adweek, Essence, Cosmo.com. She worked as the communications director on the re-election campaign for President Obama in 2012. And she was recognized by PR Week's 50 Most Powerful in PR, Ad Age Women to Watch, PR Week's 40 Under 40, and so on. Interestingly, she also served on the jury of the Cannes Lion Festival for The Glass Lion with Sheryl Sandberg in 2017. And Lauren really is doing what Jack Myers espouses for our industry, to stop talking about diversity and inclusion and do something about it. So she's here to explain the evolution, the what and the why, and the how of ColorComm and how it helps our industry. Lauren, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh my gosh, it's our honor. I'm so thrilled that you could be here because I've certainly read about you, heard you on other podcasts, I'm just saying, and your reputation precedes you. So,
thank you.
Lauren, tell us the evolution and the why of ColorComm, which you founded in 2011?
Yes, ColorComm, in May it will come up at 9 years since I founded this organization, and I was working in the traditional communication space at the time. I was working at a WPP company, and many people are familiar with that holding company who work in our business. And while I was there, I was working in the business, and I did not see a person of color in executive leadership. And I'm talking about all gamuts of all colors. I did not see African American men or women, Latina men or women, South Asian, you name it. I did not see a person of color in leadership. And so, at the time I was really ambitious and I really wanted to be vice president before 30. And I thought, how am I going to achieve that if I don't see people who look like me in those positions? And so that was many years ago. But what I had started was this business community of women to connect and really to bring together people of color in our industry, because so many of us were working in this space, felt isolated, felt alone, but we did not see our counterparts doing the same work, and we didn't have a community to call on as it relates to new business, as it relates to getting promoted and advancing internally, as it relates to how to navigate corporate America. Many of us didn't even have friends who worked in the business of communications and PR. So started this community, it went viral. It was a luncheon concept back then. For about a year, we did a series of luncheons each quarter.
All in New York? Or?
They were in, I actually started, this was based in DC. We recently moved to New York and relocated, but started my career in DC, started ColorComm in Washington, DC. And these luncheons went viral, they were sold out. And it was amazing to see the response of women who were just really hungry for, literally, it was a lunch, but really hungry for knowledge and learning among people who look like them, and to really see executive leaders of people who looked like them was really motivational and inspiring to say, you can get there, and these are the people who will help you do so.
Well, I know that part of this to add data to this explanation, and you've cited this before. There was a report last year from leanin.org and McKinsey, and I'm going to cite this specifically, that women of color make up terrible 4% of C-suite executives, while white women get 18% of executive roles. And of course, white men get 68%. And I had also interviewed Lynn Brannigan and Carol Watson.
Oh, yeah.
She runs it, and together they created the Inclusive 100, and they found, sadly, with all of the noise that we're trying to make about D&I, diversity and inclusion, that the percent of women in executive roles overall has even gone down. Mm-hmm. So you've said that there's a lot of money spent to research levels of inclusion.
Yes.
And it's great to have benchmarks, and I know
Yeah.
that Lynn and Carol feel strongly about that. Like, hello, shake it up a little bit, know where you're at. But how do we put those statistics to work for us?
Absolutely. There's so much data out there, and I always say at the end of the day, it's about action and execution. Mm-hmm. So we have the information, we're equipped with the knowledge. Now what are we going to do about it? And where I see companies fail are those companies that don't line item a budget around changing this landscape. They've spent all their money to get the data, mm-hmm. but they haven't allocated money for change. And what does change look like? Change looks like creating an environment where your companies feel included, but what does that look like? That is not just creating an employee resource group for every ethnic group or gender or sexual orientation to gather. It's really about, at the end of the day, it comes down to simplicity. People of color want to feel that they are getting the same opportunities and being positioned for the same opportunities or greater to advance at work. And that looks like being in positions where people of color are driving revenue into their businesses. Mm-hmm. It looks like having the opportunities to travel. It looks like being on large accounts. It looks like being valued. And many of times we're in these roles where people of color are not on the revenue driving business side. And the first people to go are the people who are not bringing in the money. Mm-hmm. The people who are bringing in the money are safe. The people who maintain the money are safe. But if you're not in that space, mm-hmm. and you're just doing tactical work, you are oftentimes going to be the first on the chopping block when it comes to layoffs.
But that's the lifeblood of so many companies. Right. I mean, the middle management or the infrastructure is essential.
Absolutely, and I think that it's twofold. People of color, it's so small in these environments, in the agency, marketing, and advertising space, it's so small. So if you look at the numbers of a company and you see just a handful of people there, it's incumbent upon themselves to know their role and to know that they need to advocate for themselves to be positioned to advance, and it's incumbent upon the employer to set them up for advancement. And it looks twofold. But you oftentimes don't have the skills as an individual working in the company to know what to do. And that's why organizations like ColorComm exist. To train you, to give you the tools and the resources and the professional development and the skills to understand your role within your company, mm-hmm. and to either change that so you are more valuable or to think about your role differently. It's not enough to just have a job at a big company. Mm-hmm. Because you can stay in that role for many, many years. You can be a mid-level person for many, many years. And at the end of your journey, you're wondering, why did I not get promoted? Why did I not advance? Why am I not on this account? And so it's incumbent for you as a person of color to understand the role that you play and how you contribute. But then also as the employer, it's incumbent upon them to value their people of color that they have, to train them well, and to put them in positions where they are receiving mentorship, where they are receiving training and opportunities to grow, because their white counterparts are receiving that too. Mm-hmm. And there's no way that you can change the landscape if you don't invest in this. And two things that I often see too, let's say if we're talking about, on the recruiting side, you can get people of color in the door, but oftentimes what I find is HR wanting a quick fix to hiring, mm-hmm. and just saying, just send me resumes, just send resumes around. Well, they're finding challenges because you go with who your network is. And if your
right.
network is not a person of high performing people of color, then you're screwed. And then on the retention side, when you get people in, it's not about just creating, like I said, employee resource groups. It's about creating a system and an opportunity and an environment for thriving.
So it's a vicious cycle. I mean,
it's an ongoing, disgusting cycle, because if you don't do it right, you find yourself in the same position year after year. So how about figuring out the problem and then creating the solution and doing it right? Because what I see a lot of companies doing is stopping at the data. Well, the data says this, the data says that. We're using the data to prove your point. Okay, well, the point's proven. Where do we go from here?
Exactly. And so that is very much what we talked about at the beginning of this episode, that's so aligned with what Jack Myers talks about. And he has formed the Advancing Diversity Council to move from advocacy, or talking about it, and activism. So I love that, you've got 9 years in now, and you have formulated an action plan. What are some of those things? This is where we get into the what now. We know who you are and the why of you.
Yeah.
Tell us about the what that you're doing and that we all should be doing.
Sure. I mean, we're focused on a number of pillars. We're focused on retention. We've never been an organization about recruiting. So many people have come to us because we do have the talent, but we've always been about retention, advancement, and new business opportunities. So therefore, people who are working, they're very satisfied in their careers, but why else would they want to be a part of ColorComm or from a networking experience? It's not about trying to get your next job. It's about how can you add value into your organization or company, but first having to figure out what that value is. So what does it mean to your boss? What does it mean to your employer? What does value mean to them? Is value to them bringing in a big account so that you're showing you're bringing in business? Is value to them being honored for an award so that you're giving your company back visibility for the work that you do? Is value to them bringing in a new business contact or providing a speaking opportunity for your boss? What is that value, and then tapping into that value?
So you are creating community, you're offering mentorship, you're offering various skill sets, and those, it's almost like, what are the KPIs of the various companies who support you in terms of how they can implement change? So it could be anything, really.
We've seen a return on the investment full-heartedly by being involved with ColorComm. I mean, I could point to who I'm so proud of and so thrilled about is Lisa Ross. She is now the Chief Operating Officer at Edelman.
Wow.
But before she was that, she was the Managing Director of the Edelman DC office, which is the first only African-American woman to run that office. And before that, she was the first Managing Director at APCO. But while she was at ColorComm, leading a session underneath APCO, where her current employer, she connected with some of the Edelman folks who were down there, and that sparked many conversations, but ultimately led to her, leading Edelman as a managing DC director, which I think is so fantastic, of ColorComm providing that opportunity, that pipeline, that visibility for an executive leader to gain and hone that type of role at one of the largest PR firms. And then where she is at is COO. Now, we can't take full credit for that, but we certainly can take...
I'm giving you credit for completely.
I mean, she's obviously accomplished and a rock star on her own, but that's the type of opportunity and the type of platform that we provide. And that's the type of women who are connected to our organization.
And some impressive companies, too. Can you drop some names of some of your supporting companies?
Sure. Edelman has been for many years the Coca-Cola company, Nike, Viacom, CBS, which is NBC, Comcast. Yeah, those are on the brand side, and then on the agency side, I mean, agencies with revenue over $300 million, so from WPP to Publicis Group, MSL Group, Ogilvy.
Go back to that threshold. So you set out that companies of a certain level would be your priorities. Is that because that's where the biggest impact could be made?
Absolutely. I mean, companies with over 300 million in revenue, are massive entities. I mean, they have multiple offices, multiple employees, and they really are the drivers of the communications industry. So we're affecting employees at that magnitude. I mean, we of course want to reach everybody, but in terms of partnership, in terms of reach, in terms of visibility, in terms of them achieving their D&I goals, those are the type of companies that we work with.
And I think I read that adds up to being able to touch something like 40,000 people.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, we have a reach of more than that. And we are in 9 U.S. cities as a membership organization. We produce our annual conference, which are coming up in our 7th year. We have a Men of Color community where we gather men of color in this space. We honor them, we celebrate them. We have done a series of luncheons. We're going to roll out membership this year to our Men of Color community. And then we also have ColorComm Media Group, where we do strategy and consulting and communications and D&I planning for our clients. And so we reach a number of individuals, each having their own platform and demographic. And I would say just me just describing a little bit about ColorComm, that certainly is what makes us different than a number of organizations that are out there that may sound the same. People really come to us for the demographic, for the reach. We really reach executive leaders, but then also for 4 prongs: for recruiting, for retention, for new business development, and for advanced visibility and thought leadership. That's why folks are involved.
Well, you've certainly drawn, as the New York Times, or maybe it's page 6 calls them, the bold-faced names. So I know that, Gail King, Ann Curry, Gloria Steinem, Ariana Huffington, Bozoma St. John, who I interviewed last year, and Shelley Zales.
Oh, yes.
And she's one of our Advancing Diversity honorees as well.
One of our board members as
yes.
well.
So what a draw. I mean, people are sitting up and taking notice. To be able to attract the bold-faced names of these particular women and so many others that we can't even list. It's a 3-day conference,
yes.
your flagship conference. What's a day in the life if I were to attend that?
If you were to attend, I think you would just find it so fascinating. Day in the life, it's 3 days, it feels like 2 weeks, but that we packed so much in. Really, you'll feel at home. I mean, it's a retreat experience. It's high-level professional development. Ogilvy's CEO said that it's the NFL draft on the recruiting side.
Oh,
so in terms of the talent, in terms of the caliber of people, it is quite amazing. But at the end of the day, we want you to leave feeling more connected and feeling more included in this community that we built. It really is a community. It is a reunion, but there's so many new faces and so many new voices that join us year after year that if you are brand new, you feel right at home after the week is over. People are welcoming, they are kind, and they are very inclusive.
I do have to say that there was a young woman who attended her first ColorComm, and I think it might have even been one of her first business trips or sponsored trip like this from Publicis agency Starcom.
Oh, what's her name? What could you say?
Well, you can look it up on
Okay.
MediaVillage because she happened to have written an article about her experience there. Brittany Elise Rickett.
Oh, yes, I know her.
See
Yeah.
how you created community?
Yeah.
So she wrote an article. It was in August, just after the last conference.
Nice.
And she published that, got her byline in MediaVillage. And then also, one of my best friends works at MWW, which is a PR firm, which is also one of your supporters. And she went. She loved it so well. And the interesting point about it is that Brittany came back talking about this, just elated because she was part of a community of women who looked like her, who were mentoring her, who were supporting her. And my friend came back with the other opportunity that attending ColorComm presents as a Caucasian, which is that she said nobody looked like her really, and she understood what it was like to feel like a minority and to recognize what goes on for people of color on any given day. And so she was included and felt welcomed, and the community of women is one thing, but it's eye-opening to walk a mile in someone else's shoes, so to speak.
Which is a rare opportunity because
Yep.
you don't oftentimes get that opportunity if you're in the majority. And that's oftentimes the feedback that we hear. I know a group of folks from Fleischmann a few years ago, many were Caucasian, had shared that it was their first time actually being in the minority at ColorComm, and they were, 30, 40-year-old women.
Yep.
And that's, fascinating to hear their feedback. And while I think at the end of the day, you might, you certainly might feel included and there might not be any, racism or anything that's negative, it's still that feeling of isolation because you don't have someone else around you who looks like you.
That's right. That birds of a feather mentality.
Yeah. And those who look like you oftentimes might share more in common or the comfortability factor.
That is beautifully put, and that is exactly what we have to break down and be colorblind. So let's talk a little bit more about some of those specifics now. I love the big picture that you've given us and some of the specifics of a day in the life. But you have also said that if you're serious about diversifying your company, you should have a plan in place now because it doesn't happen overnight. And you aren't seeing a lot of those 1 year, 2 year, 3 year plans of change, the action plans. What should be on a list? Give us some specifics.
I just want to address too, the reason why I'm not seeing those plans and people are hesitant to do that, because they believe that the D&I space, it costs money. It doesn't bring in revenue. It costs. We have to give up. You have to give up money to various organizations, but it's a short-term cost for a long-term gain because you're going to spend the money anyways. You're going to spend the money anyways if you do hiring and you have your employees leave that are people of color or that they don't advance. You're going to spend the money anyways. It's just smarter to spend it in this way now versus to feel the pains and to have spent the money later. So several things that companies should do is really think about what are the goals that you want to achieve and look about how you can go about achieving them and understand that to achieve your goals requires a financial plan. Your goals cannot be achieved for free. And it's not a quick fix to diversifying your company. It's not a quick fix to making people feel included. It is really thinking through what is your D&I strategy for the year? What organizations are going to help fuel and meet your needs? It's not just one organization. One organization isn't going to change your landscape. It's several key organizations that align with your mission and that can help you fuel your goals. At this point, it's doing an audit. That's where I would start with, is doing a diversity and inclusion audit.
Of your own company,
which is
different from studies about it.
Studies, because some companies are doing better than others, especially some companies in the communications, marketing, and advertising space are doing better than the business space, because I see it. I see the honorees that ColorComm honors year after year and the roles that they're in, which is VP level and above.
And I'll say, and advancing diversity.
And I see how ColorComm, I use Lisa Ross as an example. We're not a headhunting firm, but I would call us more of an opportunity firm.
An enabler,
yes. And I would see the opportunities we provided for her and many other executive leaders who've gone on to have amazing roles by stepping foot in ColorComm, by being honored by ColorComm, by being able to present at ColorComm, because these women don't get the visibility and speaking opportunities and get to be spokesmen for their company. They don't.
I see.
And at ColorComm, they do.
Yes.
They get to lead panels. They get to lead sessions. They get to feel what it's like to be on the client side. Having fans, having people gaze at them, having people wanting to mentor them, having people wanting to learn from them. They get to feel what it's like to be Gayle King for a day, Ariana Huffington for a day, because they're the ones doing that type of work, moving the needle and driving the business without the visibility of the recognition. They get recognition, just not visibility and not publicly to mass audiences. And while only 500, 600 women actually attend our conference, we reach more than 40,000 people. So if you weren't there, you know about it.
And you're drawing a high caliber of
women.
And a lot of companies represented there. That, as you said,
absolutely
will impact change.
But going back to your original question to address it quickly, an audit is key of your own company. And it's not about how many people of color do you have at my company. Okay, 14, check the box. It matters about where they are in their roles. And how many of those people of color in your company are driving revenue into the business. How many of those people are doing that? And that will give you an indication of what your future years will look like. So if you can only say 1 out of 14 is doing that, then you only have one strong employee. And the others are tempted to leave, or you're tempted to fire them or let them go. So that is really, really key. Where do these people fall? Do they fall on HR? Do they fall in admin? Do they fall in VP level? Do they fall on executive level? Or do they fall in the mid-level? Are they just doing the work? And if they are just doing the work, are they doing it on accounts that matter to your business? Are they doing accounts that matter to your clients? Are they at multi-million-dollar, the agency's marquee account that we can't even let them go if we wanted to because they are maintaining the business flow and they are doing a good job? That's the only part that matters on the not driving revenue side, is if you're maintaining multi-millions of dollars.
Now, you're doing some other things also, like you have some events coming up, like you participate in National Day of Service.
Yes, ColorComm Service Day, which is something that we created. We're on our 5th service day, something that we launched a few years ago. But really what we do is we bring together all of our chapters. 9 cities come together to do community service acts on one day.
And that's March 28th.
That's March 28th,
So
yes.
Do you have to be a member to push up your sleeves and participate?
You don't. And in fact, if you're not, it would be a wonderful opportunity to get to know a little bit more about us and meet some of the members there.
Okay.
But
I'm in. That's great. Okay. And that is on your website?
It's on our website, and there's service acts going on across the country, www.colorcommnetwork.com.
Is that 1M? COLORCOM?
Two M's.
2 M's. That's what I thought. Like communications.
Yes, color and then com.
All right. Well, we'll have a link to it in the article on MediaVillage and show notes, of course.
And our conference is a whole different website too. It's colorcommconference.com. Very simple, but many people go to our network site. But our website for the conference is colorcommconference.com, and we will sell out this year as we do for many years.
So my last question for you, although I think we could keep talking, how do we support the next generation of leaders, male, female?
The next generation of leaders need support right away. And they are not the demographic to be overlooked. These millennials are the demographic to be invested in. Don't overlook them just because they haven't been at your company for many, many years. Invest in them now, invest in them early, and they will stay and they will grow. Send them to professional development training. Send them to luncheons. Include them when you're getting an honoree or an award. So to paraphrase Tiffany Warren, and she says it best, as you rise, reach back. And that is so, so important, and I can't stress that enough. So, you know, these executives, if you are being honored for an award, or if you are speaking on a panel, consider bringing a young person, a person who's learning, an entry-level employee, your mentee to the table.
I love
Give
that.
them exposure. They don't know. They don't need to just be doing their work all day long. They need to understand how this industry works.
Yep.
They need to understand how new business development works. So bring them along. What ColorComm has done, though, we have focused and invested on the next generation of leaders by creating C2 Next Gen in our Fellows program. So we have a Fellows program. This past year, we partnered with BuzzFeed, brought together over 50 fellows who many have never been in New York City, but across the country for leadership, for training, opportunity to attend our summit, which was C2 Next Gen, opportunity for membership and mentorship. But these are women who, some are first generation college students. Some of them live in cities where they'll never see a celebrity or an executive leader because that's not where those celebrities or executive leaders are. And it was really eye-opening and such great exposure to this business of communications. And so we are coming up on our 4th Fellows program. Our applications will be out in April, and we're accepting 30 to 40 fellows for our Miami conference and doing similar programming and training around that.
So great. So I also read that a big hobby of yours is yoga. And
Only hip hop yoga.
I don't care what it is. I can understand that you need a little in your life after everything you do.
Yes,
my gosh.
yes. I love to stretch. I love Y7.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
And I will make that be the last word, because Lauren Wesley Wilson, you certainly have stretched us to embrace a little bit more in our lives.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Advancing Diversity podcast from MediaVillage. It's an honor and a privilege to talk with those who are really moving the needle from advocacy to activism, doing something about creating greater diversity and inclusion in our industry. We hope that you'll share, subscribe, and tell others about the Advancing Diversity podcast, and do something yourselves about more D&I in media, marketing, and advertising. I'm E.B. Moss.